If your LinkedIn strategy was built by marketing alone, you're missing half the picture. In today's episode, I'll show you the conversations that will make your LinkedIn strategy stronger. G'day everyone, it's Michelle J. Raymond, and welcome back listeners to another episode in our series of how can you squeeze as much as possible out of your LinkedIn company page. And I've been having fun with this one, and this week's episode I think has the potential to be a game changer in your business. And the reason that I wanted to share about it is it's because it is the thing that comes up pretty much in all of my LinkedIn audits and definitely the conversations that I have with B2B marketing managers around the world. What happens is they reach out and they want to talk about LinkedIn strategy. The marketing team are the ones that are responsible for it. They set the goals, they're setting the content plan, and they're the ones that are executing on that and measuring the results. So it makes sense that they do the lion's share of the work. But what happens is if they don't have some really smart conversations in the business, it kind of missing out on all the good stuff that will really differentiate your business from your competitors. And I think this is the secret to really making sure that what you do and how you execute it on LinkedIn makes your business and your brand stand out. What is missing for me is conversations. So I want to talk about these conversations today, the questions you might want to ask your team, the benefits of doing, and the one that is most often overlooked that I hope listeners, after you finish this episode, you schedule one of those calls straight away with the rest of the team so that you can really get to the bottom of what is going to work best for your business on LinkedIn. Let's start with conversation number one, which I think should be the priority, and that is marketing and sales. And when I say sales, that should be a mix of people that are in leadership and also the people that are actually doing the job day after day. If you don't have conversations with your sales team, what you're missing out on is the questions that buyers are asking right now. So it's really timely information. And in today's world, things can happen and change so quickly that it's just crazy. From those conversations, I think you can also understand the objections that keep slowing deals down. And I think if you create content that talks to those objections, of course, your sales team's going to love you, but you can really contribute to speeding that process up. Other things that you could understand is what are prospects consistently misunderstanding about your offer? Really, marketing should be able to help support that and really get that clarification in there upfront so the sales team doesn't have to deal with it as often. Other questions that you could ask is which problems are actually urgent enough for buyers to act on? So what is the thing that is happening inside their business that is making them go from just putting up with things to all of a sudden, I want a solution to that problem? From there, you can understand the language that they use. How do they describe that problem in their own words, not in marketing speak, not in jargon, in your customers' words, which is often like they're two very, very different things. And the more that you can get those things aligned, the better content that you can create that will really resonate with that audience. Probably the $1 million question that the sales team will love you for is just ask them, what do they wish that prospects already understood before the first call? It can be their choice, and give them like a free-for-all so that they can just blurt it out what thing is frustrating them. And you might be very surprised at what you thought was a problem versus what they see at the coalface doing that job day to day can really be worlds apart. And you might think, yeah, Michelle, we had a conversation with sales 6 months ago when we did our strategy. I'm talking this should be going on weekly or at least once a month, if you can't get together that often, and start to ask cool questions. It could be something like this. What questions are you sick of answering because buyers ask it all the time? What do buyers care about that marketing probably underestimates? These types of questions are just going to level up your strategy like crazy and narrow it down so that you can have really good focus on things that will genuinely help sales do their job. The cool thing about this is the more that you do that and they can see that you're listening, then what do you know? Then all of a sudden they are going to be engaging, they're going to be sharing, they're going to be reposting everything that you dream about as a marketer that's running a LinkedIn company page. So if you haven't spoken to your sales team, I'm not convinced that you actually have a LinkedIn marketing strategy. I think at best you probably have a content strategy, and I don't think that that content strategy has been very well aligned to your business goals. But the cool part is you know exactly how to fix it. The second type of important question that I think you as marketers should be having, if you can, is with your customers. Make it a really cool mix. Make it new customers, make it old customers, big, small, different geographies. Wherever you can, have these conversations direct with the people on the other side, especially those that might be your buyer or part of that buying committee that we're talking about. The reason that I want you to do this is because you are going to hear things directly from the horse's mouth, so to speak, and not through somebody's filter, i.e. the sales team that we were just talking about. Here's what you'll miss if you don't talk to your customers: why they actually chose you. I mean, how amazing would it be to get that insight? Because that's the fastest way to get to the next customer. Find another one with exactly the same problem in the same situation and really tailor what you're putting out there to speak to that person. What problem made it urgent enough for them to actually act? So no longer are they sitting on the fence. Something happened on their side that made them get budget approved, do their research, reach out to your company and go ahead. So understanding that whole process, priceless yet again. What nearly stopped them from buying can be equally as important. And this type of research is not being done by your competitors. I am very confident in knowing that there are very few people out there that are putting these LinkedIn marketing strategies for the company page together with this level of detail and information. And the more that you do this up front, the better the content is that you're going to be creating, the more targeted it is, aligned with the business values, and that's where growth comes from. Understanding other things like what were the words that they used to describe the problem and your solution. Anything that you can do to tighten up the language that you use is only going to have benefits. So some questions that you could ask: what was happening in your business that made you realize you needed help? What nearly stopped you from choosing us? Why did you choose us over the alternatives? What do we do better than expected? What do you think we explain badly? If you were recommending us internally, what would you say? Now you can start to see that when you are buyer focused and you ask questions of your actual customers, then the strategy that you create isn't entirely from inside the business. It's time to get out there and have these conversations so that your customers can tell you what your marketing should stop assuming. Conversation number 3 is between regional and global teams. I am going to keep going on about this one because it's probably the conversation I'm having most lately with my customers. Here's the thing: global has the big picture and those regional teams really do have that local knowledge. Neither of them is more important than the other. It's about finding how do we create a LinkedIn strategy that addresses things from both angles. So we're having conversations internally this time with the knowledge that we've got from that customer research so that we can make sure that the strategy that you create for LinkedIn is actually going to deliver for everyone in the business. What happens when you don't do this is we start to get distracted. We start to focus on internal politics, and there can be a lot of grumbling that happens, not because people aren't nice, not because they don't want to do a job, but because we didn't have the conversations up front or go back and revisit the existing strategy to find out what's working and what's not working. Most teams that I'm working with really aren't meeting often enough to have these conversations take place. They should be ongoing conversations where we can check in and understand what's working, what's not, and most importantly, the priorities for each of these areas. If you're the global team, you may not always be able to deliver exactly what those regional teams want, but it's a very different conversation if you have listened to them, asked questions, and then made the best business choice. That has a very different outcome than just deciding and sending them an email or some kind of document and saying, this is how we're going to do it, whether you like it or not. That is when things do not get done. That is when there becomes those friction points. And like I said, you're now focused internally instead of where it matters most on those customers, both existing and potential, that you want to nurture relationships or build relationships within the future. So can we make some time to have those discussions internally? What do you do with all of this stuff that you've learned? Well, you are going to look for themes that keep repeating across the conversations that you've had. So whether it was the sales team, whether it's your customers or regional or global teams, what kept coming up that you really need to address with your LinkedIn strategy? Starting with what kept repeating can allow you to be targeted. And by being targeted, that narrow focus, number one, allows you to create better content for that audience that solves those problems. And also, I think it allows you to figure out what's important to the business. You've listened to everybody, you now understand, and you, as a smart marketer, can create the B2B LinkedIn strategy that works best for your business. So you will have identified the problems, the questions, the priorities that matter the most. You can easily now decide what your company page needs to be known for. Even the best assumptions that you can make based on all of your experience will never compete or compare with what you can get out of having these conversations. You can also then make sure that you agree what needs to stay consistent, what the focus is, and where people need to adapt in the business. And sometimes it's having another conversation and going back and explaining to the sales team why we're doing this particular LinkedIn strategy so that they understand and can support it and give you feedback when you're executing it, whether it's working or not. And when you are prioritized and focused, and especially if you're a busy B2B marketing manager like the ones that I always speak to, then things don't slip further and further down the list of things to do. I can best wrap up today's episode like this. Better LinkedIn strategy starts with better conversations. And alignment gives you better inputs, and better inputs gives you better content. So talk to sales, talk to your customers, talk across the business, and then build your LinkedIn strategy. Because your LinkedIn strategy shouldn't be built in a marketing bubble. Until next week, listeners, cheers.